stream.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are live. So welcome. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, James. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Good.
I will quickly introduce you. So anyone who doesn't know Mark Phipps, Australian who spends half his time between France, Hossegor, and the Bells Beach region of Australia. Mark's been surfing for a very long time, but he's probably best known for starting or being one of the pioneers in the mid-length craze where they weren't kind of just dead in the water boards. He created the very, very popular One Bad Egg, which is a performance mid-length and very well known in lots of countries around the world. And today, what we're going to do is we are going to try and make this as interactive as possible. So we are going to choose a board for myself. I'm going to explain my level of surfing, which is pretty simple, is low. And then Mark's going to take me through kind of some suggestions, the consultation process he does for customers when you order a board. So not many people know that you can actually get access to Mark when you want to order a board. You can clearly get them off the shelf, but if you want to speak to him, get his input, speak to him about the different nuances and so forth, that is possible. So that is one of the goals today. And the second goal is obviously for you, the audience, to ask as many questions you want about board design. So with that being said, Mark, would you maybe you want to kick things off? I mean, you want to talk to me and start the process.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're just going to run through this as a board order for you, which we really are doing. We're you're ordering a board and um, going to go through the process and hopefully give people some insights into what that process is and how simple it can be and how complex it can be. Like just depending on your needs and how detailed you want to go. And I kind of like it when people go into a lot of detail, because then it's easier to get it right. Because if people tell you exactly what they want, and you make exactly what they want, you get it right. If people sort of give you a bit of a uh, not so much detail and a bit of a broad sort of spectrum, you can sort of get it wrong. So I'm one of those shapers who like to get as much information out of the customer as possible.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
You probably know where I'm at, but full disclosure, I've got a mini bad egg, 6'6", 21, 2 and 7/8, 44 liters.
Yeah.
I've also got a Mark 9. Is it Mark 9 or Mark 8? Let me just check. Which is the board you use? It's the Mark 9.
Yeah, Mark 9, I
Yeah, the Mark
reckon. The
9. So
one
it's,
there behind me, the
yeah,
Mark
exactly, the one
9.
there in red. Yeah, so I've got Mark 9. That's a 6'3", 23 quarters, 2 and 3 quarters, and that's 38 liters. My level, I would say, is intermediate. I am progressing in the wave pool, training a lot down there, and moved down all the kind of boards that you could imagine like a normal person would do. But this is my kind of first endeavor to really have a short board with a bit of rocker.
Yeah.
More than happy to surf it in the pool. For me, the board sits probably, I would argue, just below water level. It doesn't sit on top of it. But for what I'm trying to work on, my turns and so forth, it's fantastic. And also, I should tell you my stats. My stats are I'm about 6'3" and anywhere between 95 and 100 kilos.
Okay, hang on. Let me get that. You're 6'3"
Yeah,
tall, and you're around 90 kilos?
95 to 100 kilos. Yeah,
95 to 100.
yeah.
Okay.
So I
Yeah, so yeah,
go on.
you're sort of in that, that higher end bracket of height and weight for a surfer. Like a lot of surfers are smaller than that. So you're sort of in that top end bracket.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that the board it works fine when you've got speed and so forth, and I would argue maybe I'm a little undergunned. If I was to go again with the short board, I probably might be thinking about having a little bit more volume in there. It's the classic thing of knowing what to do. Around the 40
Mm.
litre mark, it sounds big for a lot of people, but for me, I think I could actually go back up. In the ocean, I want to say that it is not the same as the pool. I'm not working on turns. I'm not getting barreled. I'm not doing anything like that. I'm
Yeah.
basically trying to navigate the lineup. So last winter, I took my one bad egg, my mini egg, out to
So this
Morocco.
is more of a board for the ocean, and less of a board for the pool, but still for both, but more focusing on the ocean.
I think so. I mean, we could also maybe run through what might be working for the pool. I know you've got like epoxy and you've got Cheetah, a model called the Cheetah, and so forth. But primarily,
Yeah.
I want to do a little bit more surfing in the ocean. I hop over to Morocco a lot, and
Yeah.
my main thing is, look, my thinking is if I can stay out there longer, deal with currents, paddle around more. It's my positioning, my knowledge of actually trying to turn and go and get myself where the peak is very very poor. So my
Mm.
mentality is you have a board that gets you around the break and lets you surf as much as possible, rather
Yeah.
than any kind of performance. Because I'm just clearly not even working on the turns. I'm not even going down the line. It's the case of just trying to get into and getting time in the ocean.
Yeah. And talking about time in the ocean, you don't get to jump in the ocean every day. You're getting in the ocean on holidays and weekends
Yeah,
and trips here and there, aren't you?
that's exactly it. Yeah. So I don't want something which is
And
hardcore.
how if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I'm 44. I know I look younger, but I'm 44.
44. Because that's a factor as well. I think that's like, height, weight, age is kind of like, length, width, thickness. You kind of need to know those three factors,
Yeah,
just like you need to know those three factors of your surfboard that equal your volume.
yeah.
So I don't think you're going over the top with 40 liters at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing there, the other little detail is that the 44 litre mini egg that allows me to duck dive, and I'm very happy about that. So I don't have to
Yeah.
it's not too big where I have to think about Eskimo rolling or anything like that, and so that gives me good confidence in the water. I know I can kind of get around with it. So
Yeah.
I'm okay with that kind of buoyancy. It probably comes more into uh, how high the board, how it sits in the water, and if when you do get going, what that means. I don't want to have something which is going to be potentially holding you back once you start getting used to getting into the waves more and so forth. So
Mm.
it's a very fine balance there.
Yeah, true. And certain surfers like a board that sits sort of higher on the water. Others like it to sit a little bit lower and engage that rail easier. So that's that's a matter of knowing your own surfing and picking picking the rail shape and the model.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Um, what else is there to think about? I've got to say that the shortboard on a long ocean session, I feel the benefit of the mid length, but it nearly paddles as fast. It nearly paddles as well as the mid length. So there is obviously a difference there
Yeah,
in literage, but also obviously it's got a bit more rocker. Uh,
yeah,
but it doesn't seem to make that it's relatively comparable.
yeah, yeah. True. Sometimes you can have like a smaller, less volume board that paddles well. Um, and then sometimes you can have a large board that doesn't paddle as well. There's some sort of magic rocker there, some magic curves that make them paddle well. Um, so it's not all just about literage. You can't say, okay, a 40 liter board is going to paddle incredibly well for me.
Yeah.
Certain 40 boards will and other ones won't. So like what style of board or what model board are you thinking about going for?
Well, I thought I'd actually try and. I mean, I obviously geek out like everyone else and look at your webpage and the different boards. But I mean, the caviar is on my mind. But I actually think for the ocean, I want to stay away from that. I'd buy it for the pool, but for what I'm trying to do in Morocco, I'm thinking
Yeah.
a longer outlay, either a sized up version of the Mark 9, or
Yeah.
I'm thinking about maybe the epoxy one bad egg you've got. Does that go well in the ocean?
Yeah.
I'm sure it does. And then you've also got the Yo and
Yeah.
Yoyo, I think, which are other boards. But I'm open to
Yeah.
suggestions, right?
Okay. Um, Yeah, like the yo is good when the waves are fairly good and fairly pushy. Like not they don't have to be outrageously big and strong or anything, but it's not a groveler. The yo-yo is the groveler version of the yo. So it depends, when you talk about Morocco, it's like talking about any country, there's some small soft wrapping points that you need lots of sort of planing area on. And then there's other stronger waves down there, that you don't want that and that you want a more of a pulled in outline and more of a gunny type shape. Um, which I don't think is where you're heading. And then yeah, the Mark 9. So really, it's when you go to Morocco, you're surfing more, trying to target the points more than the beach breaks.
Yeah, I mean, I surf them all. I go with the conditions. I have a good surf guide down there that helps me out.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But
There
it's
you go. Where
yeah, but it's I got to say it's more about stability. The bigger board gives me more time, and when I'm faffing around
Mm.
and making all the rookie mistakes, it just lets me if I see okay I need to be over there, then it just helps me out, right? Um,
Yeah,
that's the real kind of benefit of having that outline.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So yeah, where are we going? I think it could be just like a one bad egg, so that it's more the points and sort of doing some mid length surfing. Or well, how long a board are you thinking about getting? What length?
Well, I don't think I'd want to go too much longer than like the 6.6. Um,
Yeah.
and the other thing I noticed that with the egg is that it's not like you have to take a run up, but the paddling is a lot different. Like you can get up to speed faster with the shortboard. You can sit there and accelerate. It's not so
Yeah.
much to pull along. So I don't know.
Yeah,
That's just
right.
a
Yeah.
consideration there.
Up and going. Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit of a tricky one, yeah, because it's not for the pool, so we don't want to be too it's not like short and voluminous or anything for the pool. It's for those point breaks. And yeah, I don't know those point breaks well, but the images that I get of them is that you're dealing with a lot of people on longboards and fishers and stuff like that that are getting into the waves, catching the waves easily, and you're trying to compete with that sort of crowd.
Actually, not. No, like anchor point, you don't get a look in unless it's very much elbows out and kind of like zoo mentality. The guide that I go with takes us elsewhere. We do surf
Yeah,
anchors from time to time, and you'll get a little bit of assistance and help from him and his mates. But
yeah,
it doesn't tend to be too bad. It's mainly the group you're with. So yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's good. Yeah. So yeah, I was sort of picturing a different sort of setup. Um,
By the way,
so
Mark,
in a six,
there's some
yeah,
questions come in. Well, I periodically will interrupt you, but there's a question that's come
yeah,
in
yeah.
here
Let's
as we've
do
been
that.
talking, and it's been saying,
Yeah.
what's the best shape for the pool if you have performance surfing in your mind? So we've already mentioned actually the person's asked two of the boards, which I think are fantastic. One is the cheetah, and one is the caviar, and then there's also
Yeah.
the Mark Phipps twin that's been mentioned. So maybe we could just spend like a few minutes there just on talking about the pool boards because it has been brought up and someone's just asked. Maybe
Yeah.
just share your
Yeah.
thoughts on
Okay.
pool boards.
Yeah. Pool boards. I think you can ride anything in the pool. But I think if you want to ride something that's from moderately performancey to performance, I think it needs to be fairly short, maybe a little bit wider and thicker than what you would ride in the ocean. So yeah, the cheetah and the caviar that were being mentioned. Yeah, that's good. The cheetah's very performancey. You'd need to be a quite an active and um, you know, fairly good surfer to actually work that board and really rip the pool up. The caviar, is a bit of a sort of fuller, fishier type board, so you can kind of flow and cruise a bit more on that, but it's still, you're able to whip it around and get some turns in and get tubed on it. And what was the other one that was mentioned? There was the
The
caviar
twin,
and
Mark Phipps
the
twin.
oh, and the twinning.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. the 20 definitely fun in the pool, like, and 20s are so popular at the moment, and we're all I think experimenting with them and getting into that movement. And I see so many people surfing 20s, and there's so much coming out of that. Like the twin fin went so far, but then the thruster sort of cut it off, and now it's getting to live out its life, like where it would have gone if the thruster hadn't have come in and just shut it down so abruptly, because the 20 was still, in its infancy of expanding, and now people are finding, oh, I can put twin fins in this type of board and this type of board and that type of board, and if I put them here up the board, or if I put them back, or if I put them near the rails, like it does all these different things. And I can ride a twin fin in big waves and small waves, and so twin fins are so fun at the moment. And yeah, and so in the pool particularly, I think, because twin fins for some reason just seem to generate speed and go fast as soon as you take off. And really, if you do a turn and lose that speed, it's quite easy to get that speed back again. And doing turns, they're so much freer because they haven't got that big sort of fin at the back, to pivot around. They can just pivot around those two front fins,
Yeah.
so you can turn so lively and quickly. And in the pool, I think, you have to be able to turn quickly and adjust. So I think, yeah, the twins are great in the pool and great in the ocean. Um, there's certain conditions that maybe for some surfers they're not going to suit, and everyone's going to get to a level where, like, no, I pushed it too far and I need a thruster or I need a quad.
Okay.
So uh,
So
yeah,
the cheetah are
the,
being a
I
good,
think those
being a
models.
good surfer who needs to work it. Like Jay, who was surfing that when he visited the wave in Bristol. He's obviously a high
Yeah.
level surfer, very active. That works for him in the pool. But maybe for someone like myself, you'd be steering me away, would you, to something more like a caviar or a twin?
Yeah, for someone like you, I'd be saying, yeah, like a caviar or the twin. Um, yeah, because the cheetah really is, well, it came from, like a, a surfer competing on the QS, trying to make it on that circuit that slogs around. Back in the old days, they used to have to travel around the whole planet to compete on the QS to try and make the CT. And a lot of the times, those events were scheduled in towns where it wasn't surf season, but it was maybe tourist season, so there was a bit of a crowd. And but the swell normally wasn't that big, or you were guaranteed, like it's still at most events, you're guaranteed to having a small day, within the waiting period that the event gets called on. So that board was built to be able to get you through, survive that day when the contest is on and it's tiny, and you just need a board to go fast and turn. Um, so that's what the cheetah's all about. It's fairly low rocket, apart from a bit of nose flip, last minute nose flip, so that you can get critical and not nosedive. But it's fairly low rocket, so you can just get speed in sort of marginal waves. And it's still got the pointy nose, so when you're going down the beach, you're not going down on sort of a hybrid or a fish or anything like that. You're saying to the judges, or you're saying to the public on the beach, this is a performance board. It's not it's so that's kind of a bit from that first surfer that I worked with from it. He said, I feel like I'm cheating when I take this board out, because it's just so fast and so easy to surf in little waves, that I feel sorry for the guys I'm competing against, because I feel like I'm cheating with this.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, it's good to know that. But I guess for me, we'll sorting that out, and it answers the question about the points.
Yeah, so it's maybe not going to not work so much for you.
Okay, and just quickly before going back to our kind of board selection and kind of consultation, another question
Yeah.
about someone looking for a versatile board with stability and good paddling. You know, that you can enjoy your surfing. What would you
Um,
say with that? And why? Why does the design you're going to recommend help solve that?
it's going to be back to my trusty, one bad egg, because it's got that good paddle, but it is versatile. I can surf it, and I know other people surf the one bad egg in small surf, medium sized surf, large surf. Like not crazy large surf like Nazare or Jaws or anything, but if it's 2 meters, you can still surf it. It's not skating out like a wide fish or something might. Um, so I think if I had to go on a surf trip and take one board and the somebody for some reason, the rules was you can only bring one board and we're going to travel all around and surf lots of different waves, lots of different, styles of waves and lots of different sort of sizes of waves, I would probably, just take, one of my 6'6" or a 6'8" one bad egg and go, okay, I'm going to be able to surf most surf with this board.
Yeah, yeah, okay, brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to where we were for
Yeah.
walking through what
Back to
I'm
you.
after. Yeah, sorry, yeah, back to me. I mean, I'm hoping. Well, I'm not hoping. I'm going to buy a new board off you today, so try and enjoy the process as much as possible. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So look, ocean. So ocean focus. There's a difference in ability
Yeah.
between the wave pool and the ocean, and I want something to maximize my time, but isn't going to be completely, I'm not going to be disappointed that after I start getting into waves more frequently, then okay, I wish I had my shortboard with me.
Yeah. So I think now that I've sort of had a bit of time to think about it and process it, in between our talks here, it's probably I think you are on the right track there with the yo. It's it's kind of a short board. It's definitely not a mid length or a fish or anything like that. It's more refined, but it's not like a pro surfer pointy nosed, high rocketed, high performance board. It's it's got some lower rocker. It's got some beef, under the chest that carries through even to the nose, and it's got a little bit of a beak nose, to finally oil it out right at the end.
Yeah,
So, I know from surfing with you that entry into the wave and catching the wave and getting to your feet is probably the area that you find hardest. So this board's got good paddle power, because it has got that more like single fin style front end, and it's got your classic um standard or step up type tail to it, like somewhere a little bit narrower than a short board, but not a semi gun, so just a reliable sort of tail shape on it. So um, yeah, I think you're on the right track there with the Yo.
okay. Let me just. Some people are just messaged me saying they can't hear my audio, so that's not a bad thing.
Oh.
Let me just see what's going on here.
Okay, have a play with that.
But I'll tell you what you could do. I'm going to throw up. I'm going to throw up your web page with the yo on it. So what the people can see now is they can see the board and the dims and stuff like that. So I think what the 6.6 is coming in at. Maybe you just talk through that. I think the 6.6 is coming in around 38 liters. Yeah.
90 kilos. I'm 6'3" tall.
Yeah.
It's not a huge board for me, in lengthwise.
Yeah.
Maybe I need it a bit wider or thicker or so
Okay.
uh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm the 6'6" doesn't bother me the length at all, and I've noticed the dims are slightly lesser than the width and so forth of what my the Mark 9 is. So yeah, the Yo-Yo sounds interesting.
Yeah. I think the O and maybe um I can't remember the stock dims off the top of my head, but I've got a feeling that you're probably going to need a little bit wider and a little bit thicker because most stock
Okay.
dimensions are made for the bulk of the surfing population. I think are between probably 70 and 80 kilograms.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you got your lighter ones below that, and then you're just up over that in that 90 to 100 bracket. So you probably need to beef it up a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, maybe. And what is the fin configuration on the Yo? Can you just talk us through that board then? Because obviously you've got the Yo-Yo and the Yo. Can you just talk us through?
Yeah, the yo-yo is the yo came first, and then people saying I really like it, but I like it when the waves have got a bit of punch, and it's more my wintry board, or when the surf's really good, or hollow, or good shape. And they said, oh, I just want the same board for some smaller, sloppier, weaker sort of conditions.
Yeah.
So we just really basically the only change was that we made the tail wider. So it's got a fairly wide tail, 1 foot up or 30 centimeters up from the back. Um, so the I think for you, for good waves and good ocean waves, it's probably the the yo-yo might be a little bit skatey, and more if we were going to make it for the pool, we'd probably go the yo-yo, but we're making it for the ocean though,
Yeah.
so I think it's probably or maybe even a little bit in between. Maybe I'll just blow the tail out a little bit. Yeah, because probably you've got a fairly large foot too, like, so you're going to want a little bit of area there to plant that big hoof, on your tail pad and not have it dragging in the water when you're bottom turning.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I really like the tail on the Mark 9. I mean, that's a round tail, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's fantastic. Okay, so let's go with that then. Could you one quick just away from the ordering process and the consultation?
Yeah.
There's a guy who's just tuned in who's done a board
Yeah.
consultation process with Noel Salas, and it's quite interesting.
Yeah.
So you at the start of the stream you were talking about having a shorter board because of the smaller waves, and it helps fit in the wave. Can you just talk a little bit more about that and what your views are on just the shape and dims? Of course, the one bad egg will work properly in the pool, but for someone who's working on turns and so forth and looking to progress, and that's their focus of their surfing, maybe just talk about what you think is good for the pool.
Yeah, so I think in the pool, because it is, like a man-made wave, you don't sort of have the luxury of being able to go out away from that power source so far. And sometimes in the ocean it's the same case. But in the pool, pretty much all the time, if you move too far away from the white water, it gets very slow and weak and flat, and you really slow down or lose the wave completely. So I think you need something that keeps you in tight to the pocket, um, or you can go big and glide out there and swoop back into the power source, like I do on the one bad egg, and lots of other people do. So it's all possible, but to perform, if you're wanting to push your surfing to the most critical you can do is up and down type surfing in on a pool wave, I think you need to have a fairly short board. And depending on your weight and age, you might need it to be a little bit wider and thicker. if you're young and light and super fit, you can probably keep surfing your dimensions from the ocean in good little waves. You don't need to make that adjustments. But if you're 40 or 50 or 60 and you're 80 or 90 kilograms, you might need to make some changes there,
Yep.
and just up it a little bit, just to compensate for that slightly softer wave. You say it's a softer wave, but it's just soft in areas outside of that power source, like right in the power source, like a lot of pool waves can really whack you. We've all had these wipeouts where we're like, geez, that one really hit me, and that one drove me into the bottom, and that one sent me flying, and that one hurt my leg, and that one hurt my head. Like so, the pool has got power, but it's very condensed into a smaller zone. Whereas I think the ocean, has power, can sort of spread out. You can find power sources in a much wider area on the wave. So
Yeah. Okay.
it's still there. So you need a board that can hold you in that area, that power sort of pocket of the wave pools, and surf up and down if that's what you're trying to do. If you're really trying to push your limits and go up and down.
Yeah.
So I think to do that, you know, a shorter board will
Yeah.
help. You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And one more question that's
So
come in.
yeah,
You often hear with marketing, you hear like, oh, look, the board's got a lot of foam under the chest for paddle power, but then it's really thinned out at the back, i.e., implying
yeah,
that that gives the performance to the board. Or we talk about it's got a domed deck, and but don't worry, the
mm,
rails are very much pared down, and the apex is very low. Maybe you could just talk about your
yeah.
views towards the front end of the board about what maybe boxy rails give you, because boxy rails tend to get like bad press, and maybe just your views on how you think about shaping the front of your boards, and just if there's anything there. And let's talk about maybe the yo and how that is. Um, yeah,
Yeah. But Boxy Rails sort of in that middle to nose tip area. Yeah, kind of, yeah, do get bad press and probably rightly so, but most high performance boards, like really high performance boards that pro surfers are riding, the back third of the board is very boxy. They might be low and boxy, or they might be, fairly voluminous and boxy, but they normally have a very, vertical side to them, and quite a square feel and a super sharp edge on the bottom. So yeah, like sometimes, yeah, boxy does get a bad rap, but I think that's not really right, like because the highest performance boards that you see, normally have a boxy tail. The rails and the tail are normally boxy. So um, but if the whole board feels just too full and thick, I think that's more what people are saying. Like when the
right.
when the rails just feel like they're too voluminous, rather than the shape.
So your definition of boxy is
And
more about having like some edge to it at the back, which is where the
yeah, if
rail is
it's
harder.
to me like boxy, it's almost looking like flat off the bottom, straight up, and then quickly curving around to the deck. Whereas a lower, a lower or pinched rail, I'll try and do my little hand shapes like I'm there at work. I'm trying to get the right background. More pulled down, a lower pinched rail like you might have on a gun or something like that, or some longboards. Um, you know, is yeah, it's definitely less volume, but and some people love that low rail. Some people love a boxy rail. It's kind of that's the magic of surfboards. You can't just say, oh, you all need to get on a low boxy rail. Well, everybody should be onto a really pinched down low rail, or everybody should be on a soft round rail. Um, the part of the journey of surfing is getting boards and surfing and working out what you like. And you might like that for a decade, but then you find yourself, in the next decade surfing a fairly different shape rail because you change and your board changes and your surfing changes. That's just as magical as going to the beach and finding great surf is the magic of searching for
No.
the ultimate board for yourself at that time, and your best ever board might be your mate's worst ever board that you give it to him to have a try and he goes, oh God, I hate your board, and you go, oh, it's the best board I've ever ridden, and it's the best board for you. So that's what works. And you have to uh surf and feel it, try and feel it and try and remember like what what works for you and develop that and go off on your path and not be too influenced. Like it's good to listen to what I'm saying, but like if what works for me and what I'm talking about doesn't work for you, you need to remember that. Go, okay, but yeah, I know you said you like this, but I like that. And that's what I was saying about when I like a lot of detail. If someone says to me, "Oh, I hate really low rails," and I notice that model's got low rails, or I hate really boxy rails, and I notice that model's got really full boxy rails, you know, we can modify that because you've worked out through your surfing life
Okay.
that's what works for you, so
Okay.
um and then it's my job to try and make a board that is my style of board, but taking on board what you've worked out from your journey of surfing and what's working for you and make that combination of my model, but to suit your surfing.
Yeah. Okay. And just one more before we go back to the Yo and processing my order. The Yo comes with 3-fin thruster, 5-fin. Does it come with a 1+2? Because I know that your 1+2 to a lot of people probably thinks not much performance, big fin, lots of drag, but it's just a different feeling in your
Yeah.
mind. So
Yeah.
clearly you can surf them very, very well. So maybe just talk about what would you suggest for this board and what your overview on fins when you're talking to customers.
Yeah. So for the Yo, a lot of the time we make that board with a 5-fin setup. And I don't do that with many models, but for that model, I think it suits it because it's a board that definitely uh just suits a thruster. Like it's the tail end of it is your classic sort of thruster type surfboard. So thrusters, yeah, a definite. You'd get it to that. Unless, you're a quad person. Some people say, "Oh, I've had one. I never liked it as a thruster. I always just rode it as a quad." Well, I just said, well, yeah, okay, on your second one, let's just why put that extra box in? We'll just make yours a quad. Um, and then the other way around, some people go, I never used it as, I tried it as a quad, didn't like it. I always just rode it as a thruster. So, once you've worked that out, but if it's your first one, it'd be good opportunity to, put the extra couple of boxes in there and be able to try it as a quad. Some people say they like quads in bigger, hollower, barrel-y type waves. They can pull straight into the barrel and pump in the barrel. Um, for me, in that style of wave, I would take it as a thruster. I feel that I like quads more as when I'm trying to make the board a bit looser and freer, and the surf's a bit weaker, and um, then I would sort of do the opposite. Like I said, everyone gets these different feelings and different things that work for them. So I like going to the quad option more when I'm like, okay, I've got a little bit too much board. I want to try and free it up a bit, make it feel a bit more twin finish, so play around with it that way. It'd be your first board in this style. So, I think, going for the 5-fin option would be a good way to go.
Is there any downside to having that extra box in there? Does it drag more? Does it ruin the performance or anything like that?
There must be some little elements of that. I'm not a sensitive enough surfer to feel it. Like, when you've got those, say, two open plugs, say if you're riding it as a thruster and you've got two plugs there in the quad position that aren't filled with fins. Um, I've never felt them cavitating or dragging or anything like that, which I guess in theory they must be doing something, because there's some edges there and a hole in your board. Um, and then also, like if you're loading up through turns, you've got these plastic boxes that are there that must be more rigid than foam and fiberglass. So it must be stiffening the tail up, but I've never been able to feel that board's um, restricted in that way by that. Whereas I have had boards with carbon heel and toe patches, for reinforcing those sides of your back foot. And I have felt that, I've jumped on a board and gone, whoa, geez, this has got less flex through the tail, like carbon is so rigid, once it's glassed in that tail area. And I probably went a bit over the top and used too much. And I could feel it. And once I adjusted to it, it became one of my favorite boards, but I could initially feel that it didn't flex.
Yeah.
Whereas I haven't been able to feel the effects of having extra boxes or, extra holes in the bottom of my board. So I've never felt something going, oh, that was the box sort of that, doing that. And it'd be interesting to know if anyone feels like they have, has anyone out there felt the effects of having, extra fin plugs in and, without fins in those slots.
Yeah. If anyone's watching has got an opinion, shout. But I think for
Yeah.
me, if you're telling me that you can't, if you can't feel the difference, then I'm going to say this Luddite, it's not going to like feel it either. So yeah,
Right. So I take that means we five fins.
let's do 5 fins. Yeah.
Fins, five. And is your preference for FCS or future fins?
Yeah, this is a good question. Yeah. So all my stuff is FCS, and I know that
Yeah.
you would turn around to me and say, "Well, if you started building out some fins, well, it's not. I've got one set of thruster fins. Well, I've got three of the same sets. Some are at the bottom of the pool, and they're all in rotation. And I've got a twin fin board, so that cancels that out. So basically, I use the Mick Fannings and FCS.
Yeah.
But I am open to
Yeah.
suggestions. If you feel strongly that maybe there's a, a better fin box in its futures and also
No.
better fins that go with the Yo, I'm open to suggestions.
Yeah. I think both systems are really good. Both systems have, slight pros and against.
Yep.
So normally I just say to go with the system that you've already got, just purely because of that day at the beach or the day on your trip in Morocco, and you get there and you're like, oh, I've lost a fin.
Mm.
And then you're like, I'll swap it out of my other board and put it in there and I'll keep this board going. And then you go, oh no, my other board's the other system. I can't swap my fins around. I only bought a set for that board and a set for this board.
Yeah.
And where the hell did that fin go? It was here a minute ago. I've lost it, or you've had an accident in the surf and you really have, had a collision and lost it. I just feel like it might just solve a problem on one of your precious days off
Yeah.
of surfing, and you can just quickly resolve it. But when you're ready to make, so you're not that heavily committed to one system, so you could easily go, okay, I'm going to change, to the other
Yeah.
system and start going down that path. So, but at the moment, you've got some FCS twos, um, so it would make sense, I think, to have FCS two again, unless you're not liking that system and you go, no, I'm going to change.
The system's fine, but there's a good question. I mean, I know what you're going to say here as well. Um, you know, I've lost a lot of fins at the pool from knocking into the fence and stuff like that because they pop out. But
Yeah,
it's quite nice being able to pop them in and out, not screw them. But I think your counter
yeah,
to that is if you hit a reef or you hit something or you rock or point break, well then you're probably going to bust out the fin box as well. So whether you lose a fin or
yeah,
you damage the fin box,
yeah. That's one of the things. Yeah, with FCS two, I feel like you do lose more fins, but then you probably damage less plugs because, yeah, in that impact moment, the fin maybe lets lets go and releases, and maybe saves, ripping the plug out or damaging that plug, and then you're off to getting a repair done, and however long that takes and however much that costs. But on the other hand, yeah, if they're screwed into FCS2, or if they're in the futures where they are screwed in, um, you'll probably still have your fin, but maybe it's bent over, and you've definitely got to go and get your plug replaced or repaired.
Yeah.
So they're the fors and against. There's no clear cut
Yeah. Okay.
answer of this one's better.
And as we're talking about the Yo, if we just let's stay with
Yeah.
the FCS, are there some fins that you recommend to go with it? Is there a different shape, more upright, a bit more rake, different? Do you want them super hard or do you want some flex in there? What do you recommend then?
Oh, yeah. Again, this is, I reckon, really personal. What works for you, and so you've said that you like the Mick Fanning's. He's got some great fins, and some of his fins and the DHD fins, and a lot of the time they're a collaboration between those two guys. Yeah, they're excellent fins. So you would I guess I would always go to the beach for my first surf with that new board with those fins, so that you're trying a new board with fins. So you really, all your testing is your new board,
Yeah.
not new boards with new fins. Yeah, and then I would experiment, maybe that day or the next day. A lot of the time, if I get a new board, I go to the beach with three sets of fins, paddle out for 20 minutes, try and get a few lefts and rights, if that's possible, and come in, try another set of fins, go out, for 20 minutes, a few lefts and rights, back in, try the third set of fins, and then try and work out which ones felt the best, and run with them for a while. So um, you haven't got that many sets of fins, so I would recommend starting with the fins you
Okay.
know, and then looking at something similar, um, but maybe like if you feel like you need more drive or more maneuverability, then looking at that information that FCS or Futures, have on their website, saying, this one is more of a speed generating, or this one is more performancy, or this one is more drivey, and then choosing something in that similar size, but with a different template to give you a different feeling.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the order.
Yeah. So far we've only got to 6-6 rounded tail. Um, we're probably going to be still around that 20, high 20s, 20 and a half, 23/4 type width. Do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I appreciate that length and dims, and you can't have like a shortboard, lots of volume, unless you got to put the foam somewhere. But yeah, high 20s is fine for width. I don't think
Yeah.
I want to go much. Don't want
And
to go much wider. I don't think.
and probably, 2 and 5/8, 2 and 3/4, that kind of area and thickness.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And then, you might be, fractions in between. You might be uh 11/16 instead of 5/8 or 3/4. Once I start playing with your design and seeing where the leaderage is, and I know that we're searching for sort of, basically around 40 liters, it may make me, go bang in the middle of those dimensions we spoke about, or maybe like slightly, just 16ths or so higher, to get that 40 liters, which I think is not. It probably sounds large, because it's 40, but it's not a lot of volume, and particularly for a guy your size, like, as far as surfers go, you're definitely a larger surfer. Most of us are pretty sort of little runts like me, like, that kind of
I'm
that
getting some
weren't
heat. Right, I'm getting some heat right now from a chat about saying going for 40
yeah,
liters. I think the message said no.
Oh, really? Yeah, no, you go. Smart.
Yeah, I think the things is the eternal question about volume, but I don't think people realise how heavy I am. So I'm a 100 kilo guy, and they should remember that if they say anything
Yeah,
bad to me about my surfing.
yeah, yeah. If you see him, you can go, look, feel that. That's 100 kilos behind
Exactly.
that.
Yeah, and like I say,
And when I train, there we go.
the remit is not to get tired as well. The remit is to get around the break as well. So I would rather probably have a bit more foam and literage than not, to put it that way.
Yeah, yeah. And when you're at holiday and weekend ocean surfer, like you're not living across the road from the beach, jumping in every night or every morning before or after work.
Yeah,
So that ocean time is precious, and you want to catch waves.
yeah,
I know we don't want to go ridiculous. Like that's why, you don't want to be on a 9.6 longboard catching everything, but just having to set your trim and go,
yeah.
like so, it's, they're everything about your surfboard is a compromise, You're always like trying to, I want some paddle power, but I want to be able to progress my surfing, I want to go vertical, but I want to catch every wave I paddle for, Like so we're just constantly trying to find that middle ground that will let you do everything you want to do.
Can we just prove it? Not prove a point, but just evidence something. Often you hear people say, "Oh, it's too much board. I can't set the rail," and I'm not saying that's not true at all. I mean that they're if that's the reality, that's the reality. But what's your weight again,
Yeah.
and what's your volume, if you don't mind me asking?
Um,
That board behind you, what volume's
yeah,
that?
that one. Oh, it's too blacked out from the pigment glass job. Um, I don't know exactly. It'd be yeah, in its 30s, probably 33 liters or something like that. And I'm, much shorter than you. I think I'm like 5'7" or 5'8". 70 kilograms. I'm 56 years old, so that ups me. But everything else, like I'm much shorter and quite a few kilograms lighter. But most of the boards I ride, because of my age, I'm jumping up to 40 liters,
Yeah,
So, 40 liters. I can surf. I surf one of my really old shrimp boats today that's from 15 or 20 years ago, and it's super low volume. I can catch waves and surf it, but for me to go out, most days, before or after work and have a fun surf, I just like to have a bit of volume and cruise around and catch waves and weave a few turns and then get off to work and with a smile on my face, rather than frustrated. I think all these bigger, easier boards have come about from people realizing or getting the mindset that I want to come out of the surf with a smile, rather than coming out of the surf, angry, like it feels so bad coming out of the surf angry. Like that shouldn't really happen, but it can easily happen. Like I'm sure the ocean will crack you, or the crowd will crack you, or you crack yourself, for whatever reason.
okay, cool. Yeah, there's no need to dwell on that too long. I mean,
Yeah.
that's been argued about till the cows come home. Okay, so
Yeah.
so
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. So I'm shorter, lighter, but older than you, and I would ride that volume. So I'm thinking of going low volume, but then I got to remember that you're um you know 12 years younger than me, so 12 years ago I would have been surfing a lot lower volume, so I think you're good there.
okay,
uh, um what we haven't got to is, do you want some color on this board?
I do actually, yeah, if possible.
Yeah.
Now, does that
What do you
add?
think?
I don't want to lose performance and add more weight or have any kind of impact there. But can you get it
Sprays,
sprayed?
yeah, sprays, sprays must add some weight, because you've got this can of paint and you spray it on the board, so it must add something. But I think it's very minimal. And then there's the magic thing in surfing that there's so many different theories and nothing's scientific because there's never been any studies done. But then, so some people say, okay, if you spray it, you're adding, a half a can of paint or half a liter of paint, so it's that much heavier. A lot of it, then other people say, well, a lot of it goes in the air or drops on the floor. Some goes on the board, but then does that paint seal the blank? And then when the board's getting glassed, does the blank, soak in less resin because
Mm.
those cells are already full of paint, so they're not filling with resin. So, so I don't think a spray adds weight. I think you can have a light sprayed board, you can have a light clear board, so I don't think the weight is an issue. I think if you like a board with some color, I think you should get it and not be worried about
Okay.
weight. Yeah.
The board behind you, is that
Yeah.
a resin tint or is that spray?
Yeah, that's tinted and been had some finish resin in black on it and sanded through. So that's kind of an unusual sort of process on that one. Um, Tinted boards probably can tend to be a little bit heavier because a tinted board, the resin is colored. So, you get this bluey green sort of resin and you put some orange tint or pigment in it to make it orangey resin. And if the glasser really squeezes it out, you get a bit of a weak a weak sort of effect of that color. So I think glasses just out of the from what they're visually seeing as they're squeegeeing the resin out of the board, if they take it all out like they might a clear board, the color looks a bit weird, and then the customer's going to say, "Oh, it's a bit patchy or a bit." I thought it was going to be more vibrant or a stronger sort of blue or something. So I think just from that factor that quite often there's a little bit more resin left in with the fiberglass, just to give it that stronger, vibrant color, the beautiful colors you get with a tint or a pigment. And therefore, you might have a little bit heavier board, but there's no real reason that you can't have a tinted or pigment board and say I want it light. Like it is possible, but then it may just look a little bit, um, you know, less vibrant the color. Like really if you're dragging all the color out, the color's
Yeah.
leaving. So so I think if you want a super light board, you're probably better off going with a spray
Okay.
or a clear board.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you want a really deep, vibrant color and you're not worried about a little bit of weight, the tints and the pigments are beautiful.
What would you do? Because obviously, I'm not going for a super high performance light glass board. I'm a big guy, and this is for the
Yeah.
ocean. Would you then go for the tint? Then would you?
Well, what color are you seeing when you're sort of imagining your new board? What are you seeing?
I don't know. I think maybe I have to talk offline about this. If my daughter has anything to do with it, it'd be pink. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Okay, let's make you a nice
purple or
pink
orange or
circle.
something like that. Maybe just let the
Yeah.
chat decide.
Well, you probably need to have a think about that. We might work out the spray another time because otherwise we're going to bore everyone
Yeah,
talking about
exactly. Let's move on.
colors
Let's move on.
a couple of hours. Yeah, and glass. You're going to want a fairly durable board, but not over the top. So not like competition weight, and not like you know big surf gun type glassing. Um, probably like a pretty standard sort of glass job. So, on the bottom you could have a 4 or 6 ounce glass job at this length board. You're right on that cusp. If it was a bit longer, I'd say definitely go a 6. If it was a bit shorter, I'd say definitely go a 4. You're kind of right in that middle ground where I start to think which way to go. So, do you look after boards, or do you kind of give them a pretty hard time and knock them about?
I look after all my equipment, but I got to say, I probably knock them about because my quality of surfing is relatively low. So if it was a choice, let's go 6 ounce, I think.
Yeah, so a 6 ounce bottom. And then on the decks, do you impact the decks with your feet or your knees, or front foot more than the back foot, or back foot more than the front,
I mean, I hate to admit
or
this,
you
but
a bit of a ballerina and your feet light on your feet?
my takeoff is obviously like a golf swing. It's always work in progress.
Yeah,
I'd like to think that it's jumping straight to my feet and I'm nice and low and compressed, but there is a dirty knee that pops in more times than not. Um,
yeah.
but my boards, they're not too
So
bad.
yeah, probably more the standard sort of standard glass job. Probably, rather than being 2 4s on the deck, which would be quite light, probably a 4 and a 6. Just to make it a little bit more durable,
Where would the four
be
be?
able to.
Where are
Sorry.
you suggesting the four? On the bottom or the top?
Oh no, on the top. So like a full layer of 4 and then a full layer of 6. So you know, essentially having a 4 and a 6 laminated together,
Okay.
so giving you 10 ounces on the top,
Okay.
and you've got the 6 on the bottom.
Okay. Yep. Sounds good.
Probably the go. And so there's nowhere in particular that you're really always damaging and having to get repaired. Like you're not putting
No.
your knees through the deck or your
No.
toes through the rails, and no.
No.
Okay, so we don't need to reinforce with carbon or any of that sort of stuff. We've already talked about the fin system, so we got that all sorted out. Um, it's a performance shortboard, so I'm assuming we're just going for like a sanded and sprayed matte sort of finish. It's not going to be like a high gloss polished type board. It's not a hanging piece, or it's not a long board, or
No,
so
it's to be used.
just
Well, just so people know
yeah.
the options here that you can get with when you order boards. Can you just talk us through that? What the mat is the standard PU fiberglass finish we're used to seeing, but then the
Yeah,
gloss is
it's
just extra shiny, is it?
standard. Yeah, then after sanding, for a gloss finish, the board has another layer of resin, just resin, not resin and fiberglass, just a layer of resin painted over the board. And then it gets a really fine wet and dry sanding, and then hit it with polish and a woolly buff pad, like on a grinder sanding machine. So high speed, grinder, bringing it up to a high gloss, so when you get a polished board, it's fully glossed up, but then that's another cup of resin put on the board, adds weight, couple more days work, so adds cost, so it gives you a heavier board, a more expensive board, a board that takes a couple of days longer to make, but you know, high end, high quality. If you want like a board to probably, who knows if it's going to last longer, but a board that is going to look shiny and new longer. Um, that's the way to go. But the downside is more expensive, a little bit heavier,
Yeah,
and so that's why,
I think I'll pass on that.
99%. Yeah, that it's. I don't think it's really. It's not really what you need, and it's not really that style of board. It's normally more if you had a gone for a really elaborate tint and swirl and pin lines and like lots of colors and things like that. You would probably do that high end finish, because you've gone for the high end glassing, so you may as well finish it off that way. But this is a functional surfboard that you want to travel with and surf,
Yeah.
and you know yeah, so I think we're in the right direction there with just a sanded and wet and dried finish.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and then when at the moment boards are taking about 2 to 3 weeks to get through. Like, is that going to suit you, or have you got trips planned
No,
sooner than that?
nothing planned at the moment.
Yeah, so we'll go for it as soon as possible. And so I'll play around with this design a bit uh, on my computer and design it and get the volumes. If we're off track with some of the dimensions, I'll probably send you a text and get your opinion on some of the questions. But if not, I'll design it up and get what I think is the board that you're looking for,
Yeah.
and then make a PDF file and email it to you to have a look at.
Yeah, and you do this with all your customers. It's not just you're doing me a favor or anything like that. This is what we're doing. We run through tonight. You will do with any customer that wants to, have a design with you.
Yeah. Uh, some people say, "Oh, look, you don't need to do that. You're just remaking the board that I always get, or say in this instance, this is a bit of a new bit of equipment for you." Most of the time, people would say, "Yeah, yeah, that would be good to see," and especially because we're not face to face. If we were doing this face to face and we were picking up examples and going through it, they would be, I think, pretty sure that we're on the right track. But sometimes, when we're doing it via texts or emails or phone conversations, sometimes what I'm picturing in my head is not what is in your head. So sometimes it's good just to put it in a plan and send it to you so that you can look at it and go, yeah, that's what I'm imagining, or that's what I'm thinking. Or you might look at it and go, oh, no, no, when I said that, I didn't mean that, so can save us a bit of a hiccup, when you receive the board going, when I meant thick, my thick is this thick, but your thick is this thick,
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, so um uh again, it's just probably half my customers would like me to send them the PDF, and I do, and then others to say, like, no, no, we're on the right. I'm confident we're right here. Just get going. Go with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think it's worth pointing out as well that you're very good at encouraging people to use whatever, all different types of designs and so forth. But you've also mentioned that people, when we do this process, like this is the first time I've bought this type of board from you, that you're very
Yeah.
much then staying in touch with your customers. How did that go for you? Next time we can do it like this direction, or put something there, and you kind of have that feedback process as well, don't you?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, love hearing about how they go, and yeah, working out how to refine it. Like, it is a model, like it's a yo model, but some customers take it off in another direction, and another customer might be going off in the opposite direction. And then I still save them under the yo because, basically that board is the yo. But if someone's said, look, I don't like the beak nose, I just want a normal foiling out, nose, and then we do that. It's still a yo, but I'll save it as a yo for Jim, but with without the beak or something like that, in the title. So, but still the basis of the board is a yo. Like, just because the beak's gone, I don't think it becomes a new model. It's hard to know when a board has gone far enough away to become a new model, and that's what does happen.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of the time you say, well, this board is based on this board, but it's we've made so many design changes, it seems like it deserves to be its own model now.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and then that's the same with those standard dimensions that you get on websites and everything these days. They're really good, but then when people are making the effort to get in contact with me and not buying a stock standard one out of a shop and getting a custom one made, you know, this is your opportunity to move away from those dims if they don't, slightly suit you or don't suit you at all. If you need a board that's 24 inches wide, get that. But if you need a board that's 17 inches wide, get that. But if the stock dimensions is 20,
Yeah.
you know, don't get that if that doesn't suit you.
Okay. I've got some more questions just coming in.
No,
So
good.
we've got a question around. I've learnt on a twin mid-length, progressed to a 5.9 twin pin, and just rode my mate's Almeric high-performance shortboard thruster. So this person lives in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know the place quite well, and they've got pretty heavy hollow waves. And I found I had some more fun on the thruster and was able to get the board more vertical and sink the rail easier. Kind of drawn towards ordering a thruster, but I've seen the benefit of learning on the twin as you have to nurse your turns more. So obviously, that's talking about like you can't push quite as much because you don't have that extra fin in the middle
Yeah, you
there.
don't have that stabilizer at the back there. Yeah.
So the question is around thoughts on going to a thruster or maybe even a quad or middle ground. Um, yeah, that is.
Yeah, tricky. Yeah. If you're wanting to really, really rip the wave, more top to bottom type surfing, I think, go with that thruster feeling that he had today that felt good. Um, and if it sounds like they don't like that having to nurse turns a bit, which you do have to on a twin fin at times, like, you can either nurse it or push it and see if you can maintain your balance and lose control for a second or two and regain and keep going. So if you don't like that feeling or that challenge of having to nurse or recover from losing control for a split second,
Yeah.
the twin fins might not be so suited. But then you can maybe just get bigger fins or keel fins that reach back a bit more and take away that problem sometimes.
Yeah. Okay.
But just from the way they asked the question, I feel like deep down that they feel like they're a thruster surfer and want to really drive, top to bottom and rip it up. But there's nothing wrong, like they can. There's no. It's not wrong whether they get a thruster or a twin fin. If they keep surfing and having fun, they're having fun.
Yeah. Fair enough. I've got one more question for you as well. Someone's asking, what volume would you suggest for me? I'm around 58 kilograms and currently riding a shortboard with 31 liters. Should I go shorter? Now, that's obviously the eternal question here. The internet
Yeah.
has always got an opinion on this stuff, but what's your opinion there? So 58 kilograms,
So yeah, they're very
shortboard,
light.
31
They're
liters.
58 kilos. They got 31 liters at the moment. But do they say what's the length of the board they're riding?
Yeah, they don't mention that, so you can't really have one without the other, can you?
Mm. So maybe they meant could they go lower volume?
Yeah, probably that's it.
Uh,
Yeah,
they
that's the
probably
question.
could.
What volume would you suggest for me? So that's probably what they mean by that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, they probably, if they're a fairly skilled surfer, um, in below probably less than 40 years old and and in good physical condition, yeah, they probably could. They could easily get down to, you know 28, 20, maybe even 26 liters or something like that,
Yep.
if they're young, fit and fairly good skill level. Yeah, they definitely could drop volume.
Yeah. By the way, the twin, should I go to a thruster Costa Rica surfer? He's saying I'm riding MR twins. So those are the boards he's kind of been going with
Yeah.
traditionally.
Yeah, and if that MR twin is feeling like it's releasing too much and he's having to nurse it too much, if he could get more like a keel fin, that reaches back, so I don't know what fin system he's got, but it doesn't really matter because everyone makes them that where you see them coming out of the box, and instead of the fin just reaching back an inch or like 2 centimeters, it might reach back 2 inches or 5 centimeters further back, and it might go back past that fin dot that the shapers put on their board. Um, and that doesn't matter because those fin dots are just set up really for your standard sort of thruster fin placement, or maybe your standard MR type fin. And then if that template of the fin reaches back towards the tail further, that will stiffen the board up a little bit and give you less of that sort of release, or too much release, or too much pivot, and make it a little bit more drivey and a little bit more control.
Yeah. Okay. And just one more question's come in as well, and it's one I've asked you before. So when I look at your list of shortboards on your webpage, I just see a gazillion shortboards. And I remember asking you
Yeah.
and saying, well, what is the difference between these? And I think you kind of basically turned around to me and said, well, look, these boards are all designed for specific waves. And you've been traveling, surfing a lot, shaping a lot, and you shape internationally. People will fly you out to their factory and you'll shape there for, like, the Canary Islands for their local people. And those boards
Yeah.
are specific for different regions. So maybe you could just talk, I mean, I appreciate most people know Takoro makes a lot of boards for pipeline people, Jamie O'Brien, or the competitors when they flow, pass through there. So it makes a lot of sense, but
Yeah.
maybe you could just explain that concept about why you've got so many short boards, and why they're designed for different waves, whether it's beach breaks in Costa Rica or some reef breaks in Canary Islands. Just talk the audience through that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, for the beginning of the first 10 years of my shaping career, I was based in the Torquay, Bells Beach type area. So the waves there are sort of more deep water, a little bit more slopey. There's still plenty of size, at times, sometimes flat, but just that style of wave. Um, so my shortboards, I think, suited that style of wave. And then when I've started, later in my shaping career, from the sort of early 90s onwards, shaping in Hossegor in France, where the waves are really quite a different style of wave, a little bit shallower, breaking in shallower water, hollower, steeper faces, um, equally as powerful, maybe more powerful in some ways. Um, my boards worked, but then in some situations didn't. So some boards have developed to suit the waves here in France more. And then, like you mentioned, that I traveled to the Canary Islands and shaped down there with La Santa surf, and the boards there, as a lot of the waves there are slabby sort of reef breaks, so some of the models may have morphed into models that work better there. And so I guess that's why there are so many different models. And then you get feedback from team riders or customers that get boards regularly from you, and sometimes they just come back and go like, this is the magic board, we've got to measure this one up, this one's got to be kind of recreated, and other people need to experience this board, so when that happens, yeah, you create a new model that they've sworn by and said, this is a great one. Other people have to try it. And then, from team riders who have, you know, special thoughts, or come across a board that, again, that's a magic one, or they've known from their surfing career that what they like, I might end up sort of developing a board that I wouldn't have just developed myself, that
Yeah.
that their input has sort of pushed me in a certain direction. So then, they need to be another model. And I think it's pretty much the same for all shapers, though. If you really saw that their catalog of boards, it's probably huge, and what you put on your website is normally just the most popular ones, your favorites and the most popular. There's probably no point putting on your website a model that there's just a handful of guys around the world that get it off you, one of them off you every year, but no one else seems to go for it. But it's an equally as good board, but it probably just doesn't get that push or get that spot, So, and I'm sure that's the same with all shapers, and sometimes these ones just pop up and get really popular, and you're surprised, and then there's others that you think, oh, this one's going to be my bestseller, and doesn't really doesn't really sort of escalate, and it's just got a little core group of people who like it, So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I'm sure most shapers have a huge catalog, and you just see their 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 cream, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Um, yeah. All right. Let's continue with the order then. I think, yeah. There's no more
Oh,
questions to
I thought we
mention.
were done.
Are we done?
Yeah,
Perfect. So the wait time's 3 weeks. We've got the Yo. You're going to play around and send me the PDF.
yeah,
Um, going to talk maybe offline about some color in there, whether that's sprayed in or tinted. But for me,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
the early 40 literage mark.
I know you really want to order pink, but you don't want to say it online.
Should I get a pink board? My daughter.
Yeah. Um, which, James is fine. Like there's no issues there. You can't do it. But yeah, like, I think at this stage, the order is good, and a lot of the time there's no point making a decision on color just when I go and what color,
Yeah,
because even if you said, oh yeah, I'm going to get a blue rail spray, I'd be pretty much 90% sure that tomorrow I'll have a text message from you saying, oh, actually, I had a little search on the internet and can I get this? And it'll be something completely different.
yeah, okay.
So,
One thing
so
I'm very
it's best that I just start working on the design and giving you some feedback there.
yeah,
And while you start really going, oh yeah, it's crunch time. I do need to really get serious about what color it's going to be.
yeah, okay. I'm excited for this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great to walk through this process with you and to share it with everyone else. How we can get access and we can talk through it. Very, very
Yeah.
useful.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Yeah. It's fun. I enjoy it, because you find out a lot about your customer, yeah, a lot of personal details like their weight and height and their age, but jokes aside, you do find out about like what they like in surfing, what they want from surfing, where they want to go, where they've been, like, and it I just find it really interesting. Yeah, it's just and really nice just to hear people's sort of surfing, stories of their surfing life,
Yeah, yeah. No, fantastic. Okay, I think we are close to an hour and a half. It's been fantastic.
Wow.
I've got a new board
So
and we've answered lots of
I
questions,
feel
which
like
is
we've
great.
only been talking for a minute.
So, unless there's anything else from anyone, I think Mark's actually just stepped in from the Quicksilver Festival, which is in Hossegor. So he was out with all the industry people enjoying some drinks. So he's come back to do this with us. So thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Yeah, it was great. We're in Hossegor. It was warm. It's the weather's been a bit, cool and not so nice the last few weeks. But tonight was 27 degrees. The storm was holding off out at sea. The Hossegor Main Street was all blocked off for Carly Vast and Jeremy Flores and other surfers. And my son was in amongst the pro surfers doing the signing, and the Quicksilver shop had like a 500-meter queue going down the main street of Hossegor for people, there's thousands of people queuing up to come in the front door, get their poster signed, their board signed,
Wow.
their t-shirt signed, and then there was bands playing and bars on the streets, and it was a fantastic atmosphere down there tonight.
Yeah, it's been. I mean, Cowley Vast's story in the Olympic gold medal, fantastic. And for most, he's obviously a Tahitian, but he spends a lot of time, doesn't he, in Hossegor. Pat Bevan's good friends with him, and Jeremy Flores. You
Yeah,
saw him out in the Olympics, so it must be quite a good buzz for the
yeah,
French community and Hossegor there as well, right?
yeah. Kelly's here at the moment, and he's getting mobbed, and like people as per usual for him. But you know, Kelly Vast is getting a bit of that attention. Like when he runs down the beach, there's a crowd following him. When he surfs, there's a crowd watching him, and people taking photos and
Wow.
wading into the water to get closer to him. And he's got to try and pick his time to get out of the water and get security to get him back off the beach. And uh, you can see he's learning how to deal with that. It's a new thing for him. He's gone from being uh, a grommet to a man to an Olympic champion. In recent times, and yeah, like it's things that his success. He's got to learn to manage the success. Things that are happening to him, and he's doing really well at it. It seems like, yeah, and he's got at least someone like Kelly has sort of shown the way, of dealing with so much popularity, and this week here it seems like he's like the new Kelly Slater, like,
Wow.
yeah, as far as getting so much attention, people queuing up down the street to get his autograph. It's incredible.
Well, you can have a few years spotlight before Jay Phipps hits the main scene.
Yeah, look out. He's coming.
He's coming. Watch out, world. Here he is.
Yeah,
Okay. Right.
you've
Well,
had the you've had the tip.
right. In that case, I'm going to cut the stream. Mark, stay online for just 2 more minutes. I'll thank you privately. But thanks everyone for tuning in. And thanks for asking questions and so forth. And I will let you know what colour we go with. Pink.
All right, yeah, that'd be good to hear. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers. See you later.
Great chatting with you.